Hi guys, my name's Nadine. Welcome to my channel and welcome to a TBR video. It is nearly October, which can mean only two things. First, there is going to be a ton of horror soon, which is always brilliant. And number two, it also means Victober is rapidly approaching, which is, it's got to be my favourite time of the year and one of my favourite readathons. So, throughout the month of October, all you really need to do is read a Victorian novel or a Victorian piece of work, non-fiction or fiction, it's fine. But if you want to have a bit of extra challenge, there are 5 prompts and a group read, so you can take part in any or all or none, whatever floats your boat. So I will link all of the announcement videos down below. If you haven't checked them out and you're interested in Victorian literature, even if you're not planning on taking part in Victober, I think it's well worth a watch because they give some really, really good recommendations for books and you can use it kind of as a springboard for your own research also. So yeah, definitely recommend checking those out. So guys, you'll have to bear with me tonight. I've got a really sore throat, so if I'm pausing to take lots of sips or if I'm a bit breathless, that's why I'm a little bit under the weather. So there is a group read and there are also, as I said, 5 prompts. The first is to read a Victorian work with a chronic illness or disability representation. The second is to read a Bildungsroman or a coming of age story. The third is to read a short story. Fourth is to read a Victorian book and then watch a screen adaptation. And the 5th prompt is to read a work of Victorian poetry, long or short. So, firstly then, the group read, which I had, and now I don't, is The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. I'm really looking forward to reading this actually. I've not read a ton of Hardy and what I have read I didn't necessarily get on with at the time. But this sounds really, really interesting. So it says here, Michael Henchard, the Mayor of Casterbridge, is Hardy's most traditional tragic hero. Through an impulsive act of selfishness and cruelty, he brings himself to ruin. But his essential honesty and acceptance of blame leave the reader with more sympathy than condemnation. The background of the novel is the day-to-day activity of the town, dominated by the risks and rewards of ambition and speculation and by the disruptions of love, jealousy and revenge. I just think that sounds really fascinating. I love like seeing life as it was then, so I think this is going to be a really, really good read. Okay, so for the chronic illness or disability representation, I'm going to choose Middlemarch by George Eliot because this has been on my shelves for must be 20 years and I say every year that I'm going to read it and I don't, and I know I'm going to love it, so I'm just going to read it. This is the year and next month is the month. It's going to happen. So a Bildungsroman. So for that I have 2 options. So it was recommended in the video, the announcement video, Uncle Silas by Sheridan Le Fanu. I like the idea of this one because it's a bit more gothic and I think that's kind of in keeping. But I also really want to read this book, and when I was researching Bildungsromans, this came up, and it's Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, and I was planning on reading this anyway. But I know that not a lot of time passes in the story, but Oliver Twist, he does experience growth, and Bildungsroman is not just about, you know, growing up physically, it's about growing mentally, emotionally and spiritually. So yeah, I think this will be good. It was not a book that I was ever particularly bothered about reading, but then because my son's doing it at school, I really want to read it just to sort of help support his learning if he wants to talk But then I've been seeing like bits and bobs when I've been, looking for stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good read. I'm looking forward to it now. So Victorian short story. Well, we have options. So again, another Dickens. I'm not sure if it's going to be too much Dickens in 1 month. And that is Best Ghost Stories, which I chose because it's October and it's the spooky season, and so we've got to have some ghost stories. But then I also bought this Late Victorian Gothic Tales. Again, I wanted because it's Gothic and it's October, and I just thought it would be good. So we've got in here stories by Vernon Lee, Oscar Wilde, Henry James, Rudyard Kipling, B.M. Croker, Arthur Conan Doyle, 2 by Arthur Conan Doyle, Grant Allen, Jean Lorraine, Arthur Machen, and M.P. Shiel. So I thought even if I only get to like 1 from each, that would be quite good. And in fact, I'm wanting to start reading more short stories anyway. So I'm planning on kind of introducing that more to my reading on a monthly basis. Read a Victorian book and then watch a screen adaptation. I have 2 for this one. So definitely, I'm going to reread Wuthering Heights. I don't know how many times I've read this book and I just adore it so much. And every time I read it, I find something new to love about it. But Summer over at Sterling Reads was wanting to read this in October because I think it's a book that she didn't particularly get along with, and so she's wanting to read it alongside people that perhaps do like it and, see if that makes a difference. So I'm going to be rereading Wuthering Heights, and then I have this adaptation, which again I've owned for years but I haven't watched, with Juliette Binoche and Ralph Fiennes. But also, if I have time, I would also like to get to Far From the Madding Crowd. I think another one of my booktuber buddies is planning on reading this in October. I think that's what they said. So yeah, if I can read that as well, and there is a screen adaptation of that, so I will go for that. And then finally, read a work of poetry, and again we have options. So I love the Brontes, but I've never read any of their poetry, so I picked this up, Selected Poems by the Brontes. And then because I've been waiting for an excuse to buy this edition since I've seen it released, I bought Goblin Market and Other Poems by Christina Rossetti, because how gorgeous is that edition? So that is my Victober TBR. Do let me know if you've made a TBR as well, or just what you're planning on reading, and let's have a chat in the comments. But thank you very much for joining me this evening, and I will catch you all later.